The mainstream Jeffrey Epstein story, it's kind of faded from the headlines, right? But if you really start to dig into his private logs, some truly bizarre and frankly unsettling details start to pop up. And today, we're diving right into an analysis of that very material. So let's just jump right in with the central mystery at the heart of all this. Why on earth does the word pizza, often in all caps, by the way, show up at 3 in the morning in a billionaire's private logs? According to the source material we're looking at, this isn't just some weird quirk. It's a huge red flag that demands an explanation. All right, so these strange entries we're about to look at, they come directly from the scheduling notes of Epstein's own personal staff. These are the people who managed his entire operation day in and day out. And the entries are specific. We're talking about requests for pizza at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., not exactly your typical dinner time. And the locations are what's really key here. His Manhattan townhouse, and even more strangely, his private island in the Caribbean, Little St. James. And this is where the simple explanation just completely falls apart. Epstein famously had world-class private chefs on call 24/7. So, why would you order out for pizza in the middle of the night? It makes absolutely no sense. So when the obvious answer doesn't work, you have to start asking different questions. Could pizza mean more than just a meal? Could it mean something else entirely? And this right here just lays the contradiction bare. On one hand, you have the simple late-night snack theory. But on the other hand, look at the context. Chefs available around the clock, and these pizza requests often timed perfectly with the arrival of private jets. That's a pretty big coincidence, don't you think? This leads us straight to the idea of a code word. It's a concept as old as spying self, right? In any operation that needs to be kept secret, you use a totally normal, mundane word to signify something else, something you absolutely cannot write down in plain sight. And this brings us to the absolute bombshell from the source material. It states that in these shady worlds of intelligence and trafficking, pizza isn't just some random word. No, it has a known history. It's been used as a code word, as shorthand for specific services, or even to describe the age and demographic of the people involved. Okay, so if you've got logistical codes for the inside operation, you also need a cover story for the outside world, right? You need plausible deniability. That brings us to a kind of social code, a playbook for how all those high-profile associates explained their connections to Epstein. So, what happened when a prominent name was suddenly found in Epstein's flight logs or his calendars? A very clear pattern of public excuses started to emerge. The source we're looking at uses the case of Dr. Peter Atlia as a perfect example of this predictable response. And here is that exact playbook broken down. Think of it as the get-out-of-jail-free card. Step 1, the name goes public. Step 2, almost immediately, a statement gets released. And step 3, that statement always frames the connection as purely professional, often saying Epstein was just being aggressive in his efforts to fund scientific research. It creates instant deniability. Now, the source argues this was not an isolated strategy. This scientific funding story became the go-to, the default excuse for a whole host of elite figures. We're talking everyone from tech billionaires to academics at top universities. So, what does this all add up to? When you combine the logistical code words with the coordinated social excuses, the source material argues that you're looking at something much, much bigger. An entire unseen infrastructure where Epstein was the central broker. And this is the crucial point from the analysis. The argument is that Epstein's role went way beyond just being a predator. He was allegedly operating as a broker, a middleman, trading not just in money, but in data, in political influence, and in intelligence. And the analysis gives us concrete examples. It's alleged that Epstein used his connections to push powerful data mining software like Palantir to foreign leaders. His relationship with former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak is cited as a key instance of this. Those social events, whether they were coded or not, became the leverage for gathering intelligence. This is what brings all those threads together. All of these different elements, the code words, the excuses, the brokering, they all formed what the source calls a shadow infrastructure. This final model breaks down that entire infrastructure into 4 main pillars. First, you have the code word logistics for moving people and assets in secret. Then, the brokering of political and financial influence. Third, the gathering of data and intelligence. And finally, holding it all together was an elite protection racket that gave plausible deniability to everyone involved. And all of this leaves us with one final critical question that the analysis poses. Federal authorities have had these files for years, so why has there been no official investigation into these logistical code words and the shadow infrastructure they seem to point to? It's a question that, for now, remains completely unanswered.